I've gone back and forth about whether to share this story, but I think I need to get it out of my system. This happened when I was a sophomore at a college in the Northeast. I won't say which one. I was an English major, part of Kappa, and very focused on my grades because I planned to go to law school after graduation. Last semester, I enrolled in an upper-level course on English Romanticism. The class was small, about 25 students, mostly juniors and seniors. The professor led the lectures, but our discussion sections were run by a TA named Roar. That was his real name, no nickname, just Roar. He was in his late 20s, skinny, awkward, and always uncomfortable with silence. Participation in class was usually dead. Most students would just stare at their desks until Roar awkwardly filled the gap or cold called someone. There was one guy who kept the discussions alive. His name was Luke. He was tall, confident, funny at the right moments, and actually did the reading. He wasn't trying to be the class clown, he was just naturally charming. Because participation mattered for my GPA, I spoke up a lot too. Most days it was just me, Luke, and maybe one or two others talking while everyone else zoned out. Roar seemed to appreciate it, especially when I spoke. For my first essay, I wrote about ambiguity in Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but I was proud of it. When I got it back, Roar had left long, detailed comments in the margins, not just corrections, but agreement, praise. After that, things started to change. Roar called on me more. He held eye contact longer than necessary. He asked follow-up questions that felt less academic and more personal. I told myself I was imagining it. Around the same time, Luke and I started running into each other outside of class. Our sorority and his fraternity had a lot of overlap, mixers, parties, events. Eventually, he asked me out. We went on a few dates, started sleeping together, and everything felt normal, easy, comfortable. One afternoon after class, I saw Luke smoking behind the lecture hall with Roar. They were talking like they knew each other. Luke later laughed it off, saying he was just trying to get on Roar's good side for grades. It felt weird, but I let it go. Weeks later, Luke fell asleep with his phone next to him, YouTube playing. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I did. What I found made my stomach drop. Photos of me, dozens of them. Some were ones I'd sent him, others weren't. Photos of me studying, walking to class, going about my day. And worse, photos I had no memory of ever taking. I didn't confront him. I didn't even sleep that night. A week later, I guessed his password and went deeper. That's when I found the messages. Luke had been sending those photos to an unknown number, regularly, for weeks. I woke him up screaming. He tried to lie, said it was a backup phone. I didn't believe him. The police got involved. The unknown number belonged to Roar. Luke confessed. Roar had been paying him hundreds of dollars for photos of me. It had been happening since the beginning of the semester. Luke was expelled. Roar was fired. There was jail time. I thought it was over. Until recently, when I started noticing a silver sedan parked outside my sorority late at night. I haven't seen who's inside, and I don't know if I want to. My name is Mikey. I'm 22 years old, and I live with my parents in Northern California. Not the California people usually imagine. No beaches, no palm trees. Where I live, it snows heavily, and the nearest neighbor is a 10-minute drive away. Just forests, silence, and long winters. I've lived here my whole life. I'm used to the cold. I'm used to the quiet. 2 weekends ago, my parents flew out of the country for a wedding in Portugal. I wasn't invited, which I didn't mind. A quiet weekend alone sounded perfect. The first night was uneventful. I stayed up late, went to bed around 2 a.m., and fell asleep almost instantly. The second night is when everything changed. I went to bed around the same time. I remember feeling unusually tired. I fell asleep fast, too fast. The next thing I knew, I was awake. It was the middle of the night. I didn't know what time it was, but I knew something had woken me up. My phone was on airplane mode, so it wasn't a notification. The house was silent, too silent. My room was completely dark, As my eyes adjusted, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. My closet door was wide open. I always keep it closed. Always. It's a sliding door that doesn't stay shut on its own, so I make a habit of closing it every single night. I know I did. My heart started pounding. My brain tried convincing me I was still dreaming, but I wasn't. I was wide awake. Without thinking, I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. I screamed. There were two figures standing at the edge of my bed. They weren't moving. They were just there. Before I could even process what I was seeing, they scattered in opposite directions the moment the light hit them. They moved impossibly fast, like they were expecting it, like they knew I was about to wake up. I flailed my phone around, trying to keep the light on them, but I couldn't. They were already gone. I heard something clatter to the floor, but I didn't stop to look. I started screaming, pure panic, no words, just noise. Both figures bolted out of my bedroom and down the hallway. I chased them without thinking. By the time I reached the hall, I heard the front door slam shut. They were gone. I stood frozen in the living room, shaking, trying to breathe. The house was silent again, like nothing had happened. As soon as I could move, I ran back to my room, slammed the door, locked it, and called 911. While waiting for the police, I finally turned on the bedroom light. That's when I saw what had made the noise. Lying on the floor, right next to my bed, was one of my mom's kitchen knives. I nearly threw up. Those people had been standing over me while I slept with a knife. If I hadn't woken up when I did, I don't think I would have woken up at all. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. They searched the entire house and the property. There were no signs of forced entry. Every window was locked, every door except the front door. One officer told me I must have forgotten to lock it. I told him I didn't. He shrugged and said it was the only explanation. My parents came home the next day and scolded me for forgetting to lock the door. It's been 2 weeks now. I still don't have an explanation, because thieves don't stand over sleeping people with knives. And I know I locked that door. My name is Natasha. I'm 23 years old, and this started about 3 months ago, right after I broke up with my ex and moved into my first apartment alone. It wasn't anything fancy, just a one-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized complex in Columbus, Ohio, second floor, facing the back parking lot and a line of trees. Not scenic, but quiet. That's all I wanted. I work remotely, so I spend a lot of time at home. After years of roommates, having my own space felt amazing. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. Then I started noticing him. The first time was nothing. I was coming back from the gym around 8 p.m., walking up the stairs to my floor when I passed a man coming down. He was white, maybe late 30s or early 40s, average build, wearing a gray hoodie. We did that awkward sidestep thing people do in hallways. He squeezed past me without saying a word. I didn't think much of it. The second time was a few days later. I was in the parking lot grabbing something from my car when I saw him standing near the dumpsters. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there. When I looked at him, he turned and walked away around the side of the building. Still, not that weird. The third time was when things started to feel off. I was working at my desk in the middle of the afternoon. My desk faces the window that overlooks the parking lot. I happened to glance outside during a call and noticed a navy blue sedan parked in the lot. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell he was looking up, toward my building, toward my floor. I watched for a few seconds, then went back to my call. When I looked again about 10 minutes later, the car was gone. That stuck with me. After that, I started paying attention, and once I did, I noticed him everywhere. Sometimes he was walking through the lot, sometimes sitting in that same blue sedan. Once, he was standing near the stairs to my building pretending to look at his phone. He never approached me. He never spoke to me. He was just always there. I told myself I was being paranoid.
It's a small complex. If someone lives there and keeps similar hours, you're bound to see them a lot. But then something happened that I couldn't explain away. I have a routine. I go to the same gym at the same time most days. Twice a week, I stop at a Chipotle about 15 minutes away, nowhere near my apartment. One night, I was sitting alone in that Chipotle, scrolling on my phone. I looked up, and there he was. The same man, same gray hoodie. He was sitting across the restaurant eating a burrito bowl. My stomach dropped. There was no reason for him to be there. This wasn't a place you just ended up. You had to drive there on purpose. I tried to ignore him, but I could feel it. Every time I glanced up, he was looking at me. Quick glances, like he didn't want to be obvious. When I got up to leave, he started gathering his things too. I walked to my car fast, locked the doors, and sat there shaking. I didn't see him outside, but that almost made it worse. The next morning, I looked out my window like I'd started doing every day. The navy blue sedan was back. That's when I called the police. I felt stupid explaining it. There's a guy I keep seeing and it's making me uncomfortable. The officer was polite, but clearly thought I was paranoid. He said they'd send someone to check it out. By the time a patrol car arrived, the sedan was gone. They found nothing. Nothing happened for about a week after that, and I started to relax. Then I found the note. It was slipped under my door overnight. I saw it when I woke up and stepped into the hallway. It was handwritten. You should really close your blinds at night. My hands started shaking. I felt exposed, watched. I moved out 2 weeks later, paid the lease penalty. I didn't care. I moved back in with my parents. I thought it was over. About a month later, I was driving back from the gym, different gym near my parents' house, when I saw it. A navy blue sedan parked on a side street, 2 blocks from my parents' neighborhood. I recognized it instantly. I don't know how he found me. I haven't seen the car since, but I don't open my blinds anymore.